Hi and welcome to this week's videos. In this particular video we're going to look at strings. This is linked to the first set of lecture notes or lecture slides as Matthew has put up. And what I'd like to do is discuss some of the concepts and then code it so you can see it being coded. We're going to we'll start with two very simple things. Using the plus sign with strings, what does that mean? It's a concept called concatenate. When we concatenate, we glue pieces of string together. Interestingly enough, with Python, you can also use the multiply sign, and what that does is repeat a string. So let's demonstrate it. Open up a Piezo environment or a Python environment in whichever platform. Save your file. Always make sure you keep your notes. Let's create a main method in which we'll do stuff. Okay, so let's just define a string. We'll call it S, and we will say it's hello world. Okay, so a straightforward string. Let's just start with a very simple exercise. Let's just print it and check everything works. So right click your file, run file as script, give it a second, make sure all the connections are working. There we go, so we're all working. And let's run main, and we expect it to say hello world. Okay, so that's straightforward. What you also need to understand about strings is that we have covered the string as an introduction in the week to do with data types. So just to quickly remind you, a string is a particular type of data. It is a data type. So the plus sign, which is a plus sign for you, but it's actually, these are called operators. And it's important you keep the words in mind. These two are operators. Okay, so let's play with them. Let's, for example, create another string, right? And I'll just call it S2. And I'm doing S2 here because it's speedy when I'm doing the video, but I would encourage you to use better names than the one I'm using here. Let's say I say my name is Dad. Okay, so let's get rid of that print statement. We're not worried about that. Let's have a look at the plus sign. So what happens if we do print S plus S2? What do you expect to happen? And I'm just going to sneak in a space in there, or even a dash, right? And let's see if you can spot. What do you think is going to happen if I run that? So let's right click, run file as script, and run main again. Give it a moment. System's a bit slow, fractionally slow. Okay, so run main, hit OK, and it glues them together. It concatenates. The technical term is concatenate. That's a word that you may not like. It's a long word, but it basically means glue pieces of string together, right? So this operator glues strings together. Okay, let's have a quick play with the repeat. What happens if we do something like, let's get rid of that one, comment it out, and let's add in this one. What do you think will happen if I take S and I multiply it by 3? Right. Now, according to my opening notes, it shouldn't do a number operation. It should simply repeat it. So let's run file as script and see what happens. Ask yourself what you expect the output to be before I run it. Let's run main again, and it's repeated it 3 times. So the multiply is a way of repeating text, and it has its uses, and it is quite valuable. There's one other very useful function that's worth bearing in mind, and that is what's called the length function. So look, if I take the print statement and I take S, and should just print it, right? But if I do print and I use inside there, I put LEN short for length, and inside there create a pair of brackets and put S, what do you think that's going to do? What do you think len short for length is going to do? What's my output going to be? Right, got your ideas? Let's have a look. So we update our file by running file as script. Let's run it again, and it's got let's get rid of that because that's just going to jumble stuff up. Right, let me do that again. Bear with me a second. I want to keep this concept really clean and straightforward. Right, so I'm just going to update my file. Okay, so let's run main. So what does it do? The first statement clearly just prints it, that's that. The second counts how many characters make up hello world or that piece of string at the top. So let's count it and check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Notice it's counted the spaces as well. So you can do things like if you glue strings together, right, you can ask for the length of both of them, so you can check the length of the glued string. Let's have a quick look at that. Run that file as a script. Give it a moment. Right, let's run main. Run it again. Hello, my way. 28 characters. Now, what does this 28 mean? It means characters. So we come to our probably one of the most important concepts that you need to understand about this data type called a string. It is made of characters. Now there are really important implications for this. So let me take the example we've been typing in, right? I'm just going to type this in and handwrite this. Just spread it out because you'll see what I'm trying to do. Right? I'm going to put a little box around it, and I'm going to isolate each of the characters, including the space. There's the space there. Right? So now you've noticed I've boxed each of the separate characters, including the space. The second thing I'm going to do is under the boxes, starting from the left-hand side, I'm going to give it an index value. Okay, the example we have on screen has a dash in it. I'm going to remove that. So let's just quickly get them to make sure that they work the same way. So let's just tidy up our code. Let's get rid of my name is Nad. We're not worried about any of this stuff here. Let's come back to where we were. Let's in our code so we can test out what we're doing. So we just have hello world there, okay? So you run the file as script, make sure it's all up to date. Let's go back to our notes and let's look at what this means. Okay. If a string is made up of individual characters, I can select a character. So how do I select the W and print just the W? Well, this number underneath, the 6, is the clue. This is called an index. Indexes nearly always start at 0. How many numbers does this make up? Right, hang on, you think to yourself, 10, because you can see the number 10 at the top. No, because this is 0, there's always one more than the indexes. So the length of this, len, is actually 11. Let's just test that first before we do anything else, okay? So let's print the length of s. Okay, we've got all our brackets right. That's not indented. Make sure that's indented. Right click, run file as script. Now you can do all of this in the shell, but I'm doing it here so it just stays on screen and it's easier for you to see. So if I run main, it's 11. Okay, so what that means is that if you count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they're two very important and easy to confuse concepts if you're new to this. The top number, the top index is 10, but the actual number of characters is always one more because you're starting with a 0. Okay, so that's one idea. Let's put it to one side and let's look at the consequences and the implications of this. I can say, give me a W. Give me the W, right? So how do I do that? Well, let's get rid of the length. We don't need to worry about that. Comment that out. And let's do this. Let's print, okay, make sure there's enough space here. In there, I'm going to take S. Now I'm going to write this on a separate line. And the reason I'm going to write this on a separate line is I want you to see how it's written. If I want to select the W, right there, that's number 6 at the index is at 6. This is how I do it. To actually extract that number, I use square brackets after the name of the variable. Okay, so S, which is the string, 6 is the index, so that should select. Let's pop it into the print statement so we can see the output. That should select the W. So let's run the file as script and see what happens. Okay, let's put main in here. W. It picked the letter out. Let's do a little loop, and in the loop let's pick each letter one at a time. So this is a nice little extension exercise for you to look at. Okay, so we'll go for I in range, in fact what we'll call this variable index, in range, and it's going to, I'm going to type in 11 because I say there are 11 numbers, but we'll see an error here possibly. Let's have a look. Let's create a loop. So the variable is going to be index, the range is, I say there are 11 numbers, right? To see whether I can take my print statement from here, let's grab that and drop it into here indented, but instead of the number 6 let's replace it with the variable index. Now that's quite a clever little trick. Okay, let me just go to some notes so you're clear about how this trick is working. I've got the for statement, and in here I've got a print statement, and I've got S, and I've got square bracket index. So that what that means, that index is a variable. It can be any number I like, right? It's in the loop, so it should start at 0 and go all the way across to 10. Okay, we'll see whether it breaks, whether I need, when you look at this, and it's worth you seeing this rather than me telling you, right? There are 11 numbers, as we said. So I very simply just threw in 11, deliberately, because we're testing out something, whether it will crash. There are 11 numbers, but when you use the range value method here in the loop, does it include the 11 numbers from 0, or does it assume it's an index? Right? You know, if that point doesn't make much sense, let's test this out. We've got a loop, and that's going to print each item in the loop. It's all in the main, so let's just squeeze it up a bit so it's all nicely together. I'm going to just expand the screen a bit. Hopefully you can still see that. Okay, so let's run that file as a script. Let's see what happens with that particular exercise. And I would recommend you playing with this. Right, main. It seemed very, very happy. It took each letter, as it looped around this particular loop, it started with 0, index was set at 0, printed S at 0, which was the H. Index went up by 1 to 1, 2, 3. Every time it went round, it printed that character at that position. That's actually a very, very useful thing to be able to do. So this very, very first video, I'm going to stop here and make sure that you're confident with what we're doing here, and that you've tried different strings, play with different strings, test the loop out, see what you can do. In the second video related to the same topic and the same lecture slides, we're going to have 2 more separate concepts, but I'll put them into a different video.